Hey, Falcon fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Atlanta Falcons Today. Here on a Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and jump into something that's definitely premature. And I want you guys to, hold your judgment till the end of the video. But essentially, I was thinking, okay, Atlanta's virtually been eliminated from the playoffs. Now, they still can make it. We talked about that yesterday. If they win out, get some help, they can still go to the postseason. But as it stands right now, the focus is going to shift to next offseason. So, here on December 21st, I'm going to do a way too early, and I'm telling you, this is way too early, 3-round mock draft for the Atlanta Falcons for next year's 2022 NFL Draft. Again, do I think that all the players I'm going to select today are going to be available at the picks that I picked them at or worthy of the picks that I'm going to pick them at? No. But doing my research, and I already started my draft prep as I always do here early in December, I've decided to go ahead and give you guys what potentially a mock draft could look like for the Atlanta Falcons. Let's start, though, with the defensive needs. I think we all can agree that these are the obvious needs the Atlanta Falcons have. Number one, defensive end. Duh. They need help on the defensive line. I think offensive line is also a massive need. I don't know if it's the second biggest need on this team, but it is definitely up there. It's probably in the top three because the offensive line got obliterated on Sunday and has been getting obliterated basically the entire year. Cornerback, opposite of A.J. Terrell. Not as big of a need because you have Terrell, but adding another cornerback is definitely a need, in my opinion, for the Atlanta Falcons. And finally, running back. I think running back is the fourth biggest need here. I will address it in this mock draft. I think they need to address the running back position because you don't know if Cordell Patterson's going to come back. Mike Davis is clearly not a number one on this team. The only need that I left out was wide receiver, but I think they're going to add one, maybe free agency, one of the cheaper wide receivers, so I kept it off our list at least for today. In terms of draft picks, just a little refresher. As it stands today, these picks are going to change. And so right now, these are the draft picks that they have in terms of the positioning, right? They have the number 9 overall in the first, they have 41 overall in the second, they have 57 overall via the Titans. That's the Julio Jones trade, which of course I say all the time, they won. And then you have 73 overall there in the third round. So 4 picks in the first 3 rounds due to the Julio Jones trade. But again, those can change and they will change because there are still a lot of games left to go. We won't have the official draft order until the end of the season. All right, pin comment, ad break. Quick question before we get into this actual mock draft. What is the biggest draft need for the Falcons? Overall, biggest draft need. You tell me down below in the pin comment right now. All right, so let's go and jump into my mock draft here, and I did a lot of research and a lot of work putting this together, and so I took, with the number 9 overall pick, DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M, the defensive tackle, technically, although defensive line is what we call him here, at number 9 overall. Now, here's the thought on DeMarvin Leal. Yes, he's a D-tackle. Technically, you need defensive ends on this team, although Leal's one of those unique defensive ends, much like Aaron Donald, who can line up both inside and outside. And a lot of defensive ends, Eric Armstead can do that, DeForest Buckner can do that. There are a lot of D-tackles out there that are D-tackles, but can line up on both sides of the defensive line, inside and both outside. Number 1 D-tackle prospect. I think he's basically a guaranteed top 15 pick in the NFL draft. Everything I read about him is that they absolutely loved him up there at Texas A&M and really was a menace in the backfield. You think about Grady Jarrett being a great disruptor, but he didn't get a lot of sacks. DeMarvin Leal had 8.5 sacks last year, this past season for Texas A&M. I mean, he gets in the backfield, he gets tackles for a loss, he plugs the holes. I mean, he is by all intents and purposes a pass rusher, but he plays defensive tackle, and so I think that's going to knock him down in Falcon fans' eyes because you're going to say, well, we need a pass rusher, not a D tackle. The pairing of him and Grady Jarrett along the defensive line would be, I mean, as good of a 1-2 punch potentially in the National Football League inside as you could have. And now Grady's got to stay inside, but you can put Leal on the outside and the inside. This would be a great pairing, in my opinion, on the Falcons' defensive front. I think that they at least have to go defensive line with that number 9 overall draft pick. I know that there's some other options we'll show you in just a second, but with the current state of their depth chart, I mean, this to me would be a home run pick for the Atlanta Falcons, and it instantly makes that defensive line a lot better than it was in 2021. Now, other options I thought about at number 9. Most of them are defensive tackles or defensive linemen. Thought about Jordan Davis out of Georgia, although he, again, is more of just a pure defensive tackle versus Leal's ability to move on the outside, and I like that about him. Karlaftis out of Purdue is probably going to go a little higher than 9, in my opinion. He's the third DN to go, although he's an option there. I looked at Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman for Texas A&M, because they do need an O-line, and there are a lot of good ones inside the top 20 of the draft next year, but I'm holding off on offensive line until later on in the draft. Ojabo out of Michigan, also someone I think is going to be more in the 20s in terms of a pass rusher, and I wanted to get somebody with actual value there at number 9 overall. All right, so we're going to get into my next pick here. Make sure you guys are subscribed because as the draft gets closer, we're going to do a ton of great draft coverage. And here's the deal. I do draft coverage, and I do videos from everywhere. You notice right now I'm not in my usual studio, my usual spot. I'm home for the Christmas break, and so we're in a room at my parents' house right now, so that's why it looks kind of weird. But at the same time, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm getting you guys all the latest Falcon videos here, so reward me by hard working during the holidays and going down below and subscribing. All right, let's go ahead and move into my second round draft pick, number 41 overall. I went with Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end out of FSU. I think they need to go back-to-back pass rushers with 1 and 2. At this point, I mean, It just feels like that's the one spot you really need to improve on. You really can improve on if you do this right. So you get an interior pass rusher who can play on the outside and Leal, and you get Jermaine Johnson, defensive end out of FSU, who, to me, again, is one of those guys who was kind of shadowed during his time at Georgia, transferred to FSU, and has popped. 7.5 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss. I mean, he is one of the better pass rushers in the ACC, and I think that he can be that pure pass rusher the Falcons need to draft. And so you get 2 pass rushers in the first 2 rounds, and again, instantly upgraded defensive line that definitely needs a lot of help. I looked at cornerback here heavily. There are some cornerbacks in the second round that I really thought about pairing with A.J. Terrell, but in the end, I went with pass rusher because I think that you can find free agent cornerbacks a lot easier than free agent pass rushers. Like, they got to build through the drafted pass rusher. So I went with Jermaine Johnson, although there are a lot of good ones that you can mix in there in the second round. Johnson could sneak into the first by the time that we get to the draft, but right now he was available. I took him there at number 47. All right, let me ask you guys this, though. Would you rather have a cornerback or another pass rusher in round 2? Which would you guys rather have? Type CB down below for cornerback or type DL down below for defensive lineman. I liked back-to-back. You guys might not. Give me your thoughts in the comments section down below. All right, before we're going to get into our second round draft pick, you guys are going to like this one too, I think. Quick shout out to our friends at BetUS and your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting you possibly could want by going to chatsports.com/betfalcons. That promo code is Falcons125. Get a 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up, and you essentially can bet on Atlanta the final 3 games. You can bet on the Hawks right now, who've been a little up and down, or you do like me and you bet on other NFL games. And so obviously there's plenty of NFL games going on for the rest of the year, including playoffs. Do it with our friends at BetUS, chatsports.com/betfalcons. That promo code is Falcons125. All right, second round draft pick, second round draft pick, I should say. I thought about cornerback again. And I thought about quarterback here as well, because, there was Carson Strong in Nevada. Maybe he falls a little bit. There will be some sort of mid-round quarterback in the Falcons take. I, in the end, though, went with Isaiah Spiller, the running back out of Texas A&M. Like, I immediately, just as I was going through my mock draft, thought, you know what? Let's just get the best running back in the draft. And I think this is a strong draft class. Think about, Kenneth Walker coming out of Michigan State. The guy coming out of, Iowa State. I'm blanking on these guys' names right now. Walker's the best out of the entire business, in my opinion. Spiller is the best in the business out of the 5 that are really good in this year's class. 6'1", 215 pounds. He has power. He has speed. He's elusive out of the backfield. I mean, he has everything you want in a pass-catching, run-heavy running back. To me, this is something the Falcons have to do. Like, they've got to get a running back in the first 3 rounds. Maybe you wait till the 4th round, but I just sat there and went, you could get a difference maker right away. When's the last time you had a really good running back? And you can say Cordell Patterson, but there's no guarantee they can re-sign Cordell Patterson. He's played so well, some other team's going to offer him a lot more money. And imagine Patterson next to a legit running back. Like, they haven't had this since Devontae Freeman 6 years ago. So I am all for, again, taking a running back here. And I think Spiller or any of the other ones, Walker, the guy out of Texas, there are a lot of good ones, but I like Isaiah Spiller. I took him in this mock draft. I thought about going cornerback here. I'll throw the Falcon cornerback depth chart up because they do need a cornerback opposite of A.J. Terrell. But as you'll see, I'm going to wait a little bit longer because having Terrell gives you a little bit of leeway. Like, they don't have an already star pass rusher or an already star running back. That's why I went with those before going with cornerback, because they already have an emerging star cornerback there in the depth chart. All right, final pick here, number 3, or a third-round draft pick, 73 overall. I did go cornerback here. I went with Riley Moss out of Iowa. So there's a lot of cornerbacks. Let me just say that. I did a lot of research on these third-round draft picks who are going to be corners. There's like 4 or 5 of them. I like him because he was a Senior Bowl invite. He was a Big Ten All-Defensive Back of the Year, or Defensive Back of the Year. He was, third-team All-American. He was an All-Big Ten player. I mean, he has all the accolades. And really, when you put on the tape against some of the better wide receivers in the Big Ten, he does a very good job. And I think size and athleticism are exactly what you want. He's 6'1", 191 pounds, and really competed well, like I said, against the rest of the Big Ten. It gets a lot harder now because we're so early in the draft process to find these third-round guys. Like, who knows where Riley Moss is going to be drafted? I think around the 3rd round, but there's no guarantee. But you get my point here. Focus more on the fact this is a cornerback pick versus the actual cornerback that is taken, because if you could get a guy like Moss and he could start immediately opposite of A.J. Terrell and you only spend a 3rd-round draft pick on him, that is a massive win and a huge, huge thing for the Atlanta Falcons because they desperately, desperately needed that. All right, there you go. There are my 4 picks. DeMarvin Leal, Jermaine Johnson, Isaiah Spiller, and Riley Moss. It's way too early, I know. And I know that the odds of all these players being a Falcon are, like, there's a 1% chance. But I wanted to get you guys thinking about what they could do in the draft, and that was the purpose of today's video. Of the 4, which do you like the most? Well, let me know. I love the Leal pick at number 9. I love Isaiah Spiller in the 2nd round. I think those are 2 fantastic picks. If they're able to do that, that's a huge win for the Atlanta Falcons. Give me your thoughts down below on who you guys like the most. All right, ultimately for today on Atlanta Falcons, way too early mock draft here on Atlanta Falcons Today. Plenty more coverage coming up later on this week and this rest of the month here. If we head into the new year, we'll see what the Falcons do on Sunday, and obviously cover that as we always do. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. For Atlanta Falcons Today, I'm Thomas Mott, signing off to the rest of your day.